Hello, I'm the 1B, and with the arrival of the Season 4 preseason, we have seen some changes to League of Legends. Prior to the end of Season 3, there were talks of how the meta might change, and even more so now with the changes that we've seen in the preseason for Season 4. Before I get into anything, I just want to let you know right away that I'm not going to be talking about the League of Legends meta specifically. Uh, I just want to go over the concept of metas and how it applies to League of Legends. To do so, I did some research into what meta is, and I've played tons of League of Legends games using the meta and not using the meta. Being able to understand what the concept of meta is will allow you to, as players, to have a better outlook on the game and give you a better idea of how other players are reacting to the game. I guess how just give you a better idea of what other players are doing. So I'm going to discuss what a meta is, how it's developed, the cons, the pros, and then kind of put it all together. So let's start with what metas are. To me, meta was a weird concept when I first started to look it up. There's a lot of definitions to it, and I found some examples, and they gave me a better idea of what meta is. If you are in a meeting, time spent discussing the meeting itself, such as how long it will last, who will talk first, or whether everyone can see the screen, is meta. It's the discussion about the meeting instead of being about the topic the meeting is supposed to be about. So let's say your meeting is safety, right? It's about safety. You are discussing what time the meeting is, where everybody will sit, who's going to talk, who has the PowerPoint presentation. It's all these things for the setup of the meeting. It's the setup of the meeting. It's the organization and structure of the meeting. It's not the topic of safety. So the organization and setup of the meeting is meta. And here's the second example. When a married couple is arguing about a decision, let's say where to spend Christmas, and one of them says, "You always interrupt me," or "Don't yell," the argument has turned meta. They are arguing about the argument now and not about the Christmas plans. So one person wants to spend Christmas at their families. The other person says they're not going to do it. The other person says, "You interrupt me." The other person says, "Stop yelling." Now it's become an argument about what's going on in the argument instead of which parents or where they're going to spend Christmas. Now, what we're actually using in League of Legends is called metagaming. So, in simple terms, this is the use of out-of-game information or resources to affect one's in-game decisions. So, my take from this is Riot built League of Legends, and the game has in a set environment that enforces certain rules. We then, as a community, have created our own rules, which is the meta. So now that we covered what meta is, we can now talk about how it is developed. So how meta is developed is basically optimization. So in history, things got better over time. Tools went from stone to steel, technology from typewriters to typewriters to computers. Strategies in war have went from standing still and shooting at each other to using cover and using the element of surprise. So in gaming, it starts as soon as gamers get their hands on the game. This could be an alpha, beta, whenever. So let's use Call of Duty as an example. So you get Call of Duty, and you and your friends are playing, and you guys start noticing that a certain gun or a certain loadout is allowing you guys to win more matches. So the enemy team takes notice, and they start using it too. And then the lobby breaks, and the enemy team is using that same loadout. And other people start seeing this loadout, and so they try it. So now all these people are trying this same loadout, and it's winning. It's helping them win. So it starts to spread. Eventually what's going to happen is somebody's going to be like, you know what, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try something different. And so you have loadout A, which everybody's been using, and this person's going to do loadout B. And loadout B starts beating A. And everybody starts to notice loadout B is better. So everybody starts using loadout B. And then eventually somebody will come up with maybe a mixture of loadout A and loadout B, becomes loadout C, and that beats out loadout B, so on and so forth. So basically one loadout is found to be good, another loadout is found to be better, so then that one's adopted, and then another loadout's found to be better, so that becomes adopted. So it's like a virus, it spreads, and the better virus becomes adopted. So with League of Legends, I wasn't a part of the beta, but I assume that early players were using their experience with previous MOBAs like Han or Dota to come up with strategies in League of Legends, or how to play League of Legends, right? So they were using outside information to affect the gameplay in League of Legends. Now, eventually, they would have gotten used to how League of Legends works and would start to deviate from the strategies that they were using before. And this is when the League of Legends meta would be starting to form. And this is all based on trial and error, right? They try something, it doesn't work. They try something, it does work, so they adopt that. They find out that something else beats that. So then these are things that are helping players find the optimal way to win, which is what most games are about, right? You want to win. So now that you have an understanding of how meta is developed, let's start talking about the cons of meta in League of Legends. So once a meta becomes widely used and adopted, it can start causing some problems. So the League of Legends community has widely adopted whatever you may think our current meta is. It doesn't matter. And so this League of Legends meta is the rules that we have decided on as a community that are not forced by League of Legends. And we expect other players to use these set of rules that we have created and when they don't, they get punished. And this is in the form of harassment and raging and just verbal abuse, whatever. So for them, because they don't conform to the rules that we create as a community, we're punishing them, right? They're stepping out of, they're not in line, so we're forcing them back in line, or trying to. So another con is that the meta creates a box, and most people get comfortable and used to being inside this box, so they no longer will want to go outside of the box or think about what's outside of the box. And this becomes a problem in League of Legends because when you get used to one type of strategy, you don't have the ability to, or most people don't want to adapt. They just think that the one strategy is the correct way, and if you keep doing it, that's the only way to win. When that's not true. So you do have to adapt, right? I remember hearing somewhere that I think it's something like a plan will never go beyond contact with the enemy. So this strategy, everybody, you go into the room, lobby, you start picking your champions, you guys come up with a strategy, and then once you get in game, the enemy acts a certain way that you probably didn't expect, and the strategy goes, kaput. There's nothing you could do about that. You just have to adjust, and if you don't adjust, this is why people are saying GG before 20 minutes into the game. They're saying GG at 10 minutes, and I have played so many games where I have played it where they've went 50 minutes and I've won. And this is the problem, is people are used to needing the first 6 levels to go exactly their way in order to them thinking that they can win, when it's not the case. So being able to step outside the box is good, but you should really understand how being inside the box works first before you start deviating and going outside of the box. So now that we have talked about the cons of meta, let's talk about the pros of meta. If people follow the meta, there are some good things that can come from it. So this is especially good for new players. It gives them a structure to learn from, and they can get better, because League of Legends is a very complicated game, and I believe that you barely even learn the meta pre-30. If all you did was play AI up to level 30, you have no idea how real players are going to react. So when I hear people saying, somebody will be in the game and they're like, oh, this is my first time playing Fizz, and somebody's like, well, go practice with bots. And I do understand this. I understand that you should know what his abilities are and how to use them prior to bringing it into a game with other people. But past that, there is that you do not learn how to react to other players. I live by a train. You don't learn how to react to how other players are playing a champion. So if you're Fizz versus Ziggs, you don't know how to beat Ziggs when they're being played by a player. And to be honest, once you've played against a lot of champions and you've played with a good amount of champions, you kind of have an idea of how most champions work, and a lot of these skills can be transferred over to other champions. So it's not necessary that you need to play bots. Once you reach a certain level where you're comfortable playing PvP, you're going to learn more from playing PvP than you ever will learn playing bots. That's a fact. So another good thing, another pro for meta is organization. There is so much stuff that would need to be discussed and argued about before a game if there was no meta. Because if you went into the lobby and you needed to come up with a strategy, and then what champions fit within this strategy, and then which champions each player can play to fit into that strategy, this is just too much information. And what if somebody doesn't want to follow that strategy? Then these things it's just too much. And with the meta being there, we have the ability to call out a role and have an understanding that that person understands the meta, and they will and that allows us to not have to. This is one less thing for us to argue about, right? And in League of Legends, any way you can reduce arguing is it's good. And if everybody just went into the lobby with the team and they just did their own thing, then it really wouldn't be a team game, would it? It'd be more of a one-on-one thing, even though there would be 4 teammates. And why? There would be no need for 3 lanes. So the meta helps with organization, and I want you to understand that that League of Legends is a team game, and the meta helps organize the team. And I talked about trial and error in how metas are developed. And in League of Legends, the trial and error will always continue, and it should continue. But our current meta is what gives us the best chance to win right now. The meta is the optimized play, giving us the optimal way to win. And I believe that you should understand the best way to win before you start deviating and thinking that you can create a better way to win. So now that we talked about the pros of meta, let's quickly put all this kind of stuff together. There's a lot of stuff that I could have went over. I could have went in depth about what the League of Legends meta is. I could have went more in depth about meta itself. But I wanted to give you guys a good understanding of it, how it's developed, some good things and bad things about it. So let's kind of put this all together based on League of Legends. There are many aspects of League of Legends that makes information formed outside of what is forced in-game to give you a better chance of winning. So what I mean by that is, so us as the community has created these rules to help us win games, because the in-game environment doesn't say that you have to build attack damage items on Caitlyn. You could build AP, but if you go AP bot with Caitlyn, the chances are that the AD Jinx is going to beat you out. Like, she's just going to do better. She's probably going to last hit better. She's going to do more damage to you overall. But you can go AP Caitlyn bot lane. The game is not going to make you get AD items. But you're going to have less chance of winning if you didn't know that. If you didn't know that AD is better on Caitlyn, there's less chance that you are going to win. Now, there's also, so like if I pick Caitlyn and you pick Vayne, there's also this information that we think that a certain champion will do better against another champion. So like we say Caitlyn is better against Vayne because Vayne has one of the shortest ranges as an AD carry and Caitlyn has one of the most. So it's easier for Caitlyn to sit back and poke and zone out Vayne. Now, there are many more examples of meta stuff, but I want you to understand that the meta we discuss as League of Legends players is about figuring out the best chance to win the game. We collectively, as a community, are using any information gathered over time from trial and error to do this. League of Legends as a game has really given us very little rules within its environment. How we actually are playing the game is based on the information that players before us and the players that are around now have collected over time to implement our own set of rules. And I know that the meta causes a lot of problems. I know that the biggest problem is raging. And I've seen people say that the meta is the problem with this. And like I said before, it does cause this. But I think that there'd be a lot more arguing if there was no organization brought to the table. And I know the meta causes us as players to have expectations of other players. And it can cause people to get angry and rage at other players. But you just have to remember that you need to think outside the box, because you can use that player that is outside of the meta as an advantage against other teams that are expecting the same old thing. They won't know how to react. A majority of the time, teams won't know how to react against somebody doing something out of the norm. Just the other day, I misclicked. I picked Udyr instead of Sivir, so we had Udyr Cho'Gath bot. Weird bot lane. We lost, but we did okay that game. The game went on, and it could have went either way. Their AD carry didn't blow us completely out of the water. It just didn't give us the best chance to win. And we didn't win. But you have to adapt. Don't let the game end at 10 minutes. Don't say GG at 10 minutes. Adapt. Learn to play differently. Take every opportunity to learn. So I've kind of just put everything together that I've discussed, and I've applied it to League of Legends. So let's wrap this all up. So today we discussed what meta is, how it's developed, the cons, the pros, and we put it together. You should now have a better understanding of meta in general. So now you should be able to get into the preseason and start using this to your advantage. Thanks for listening. I'm the 1B.